Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Parampara. In our last session, we had concluded this 29th shloka, the true state of being. Satyasthitirnahamudeti yatra tachodayasthana gaveshanena vinana nashyed yadi tanna nashyed swatmaikya rupa kathamastu nishtha. We began our discussion in our last session where Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi gives us a technique of meditation on the self to gain the vision of the Supreme. So, nature has made our mind and the senses extrovert, so it doesn't focus on itself, it focuses on outside. Rare is the one who dives within to inquire about his own self. In whose light does all the objects shine? So we know the mind illumines the object. So what illumines the object? What illumines the thought of the object? And so on. So we come to that which illumines the object, the thought illumines the object. And what illumines the thought of the object is the pure self, the consciousness. So this is one technique that was given by Bhagwan to us, how to get to that. Because of course, the thought is also jada, object is jada, mind is jada, it has to be illumined by consciousness. So this was one technique of coming back from the object to the thought of the object to that which illumines the thought of the object. Then in the 25th, 26th and 27th verse, these three verses, Bhagwan gave us a detailed description of this non-existent ego, the I notion, which is the root cause of all our problems. So our Panchakoshas, the body, mind, intellect, equipment, the body doesn't say that I am. And without I, there is no experience whatsoever. So because the body is jadam, is inert, insentient, I is not the mind also, because I is the knower of the mind. And the known object cannot ever be the knower. So this ego is only available in the waking and the dream state and is absent in the deep sleep state. But again, something is present in the deep sleep state. Otherwise, we will not have the memory of our deep sleep experience. Sushupti avastha anubhava. If we have memory, that means some entity is present there. And that entity is not separate from us. So, when we inquire into the birthplace of the ego, we realize the self. So, this ego manifests only with the thought and becomes unmanifest in the absence of thought. So, ego comes and goes, but I, the pure self, is always present. Illumines the thought as well as illumines the absence of the thought. And then, in the next verse in Shlok 26, Then again, Bhagavan says here how the body, being the subject to sixfold modification, can neither know itself nor know others. So the ego appears to be sentient. So ego appears to be sentient, so it cannot be the body. At the same time, ego cannot be Param Satya also, the pure self, because the pure self doesn't have birth or death, but ego has got birth and death. So it is, the ego is neither the body nor the pure self, but it has got the quality of both. It has got the shape and form of the body and sentiency of the pure self. Something like that. The death, birth and death of the body, as well as the sentiency of the pure self, and then it appears to be as though this is what I am. But as regards the inert body is concerned and the pure self is concerned, both are actually free from ego. See, ego is not outside the body also, because we don't have I notion in any of the things or beings outside the body. So it is not there outside the body also. So where is this ego then? Ego arises with the first thought. As it awakes, it owns the first thought, and having owned the last thought, it goes to sleep. So that is what the ego is all about. So this ego, which is an entity in between the inert body and the pure self, seems to have the quality of both, somewhat, borrowed the form, borrowed the birth and death of the body, and then sentiency of the self, and it appears to be some kind of an entity, which actually it is not. When the adhara or the conditionings, adhara or the support is removed, adhisthana, the substratum because of which this ego acts, if that is removed, then there will be, this ego will not be there anymore. Like for example, for a trembling reflection, we need to have water surface as well as sunlight. If there is no sunlight and there is no water surface, there cannot be any trembling reflection. We cannot even imagine reflection without these two entities. So sunlight and the shimmering water, they are the substratum for this reflection. If that adhara is removed, then there is no reflection. Similarly, the adhara, if it is not there, then this ego is also will be destroyed with that. No adhara, then there is no existence for that. Then again, we saw that as soon as the ego manifests, it starts taking different forms, gross and subtle forms. And it is a voracious eater of forms. It is, and it likes the titles also very much. Chairman of so-and-so, treasurer, secretary, president, vice president, and champion, winner, and all that thing, all different kinds of titles it likes. Winner of this award and that award and all that thing. Name and fame and status and success. Oh, it is a voracious eater of all these things. Gross and subtle. So therefore, this fellow, it sometimes announces its own death also. I am egoless. And so on. This ego is very difficult to pinpoint like that. It assumes different forms, identifies with different things, and then we get carried away by that also. Some people are so fascinated by the titles, and if when their name is taken and the title is not mentioned, they feel offended also. All that thing. And even when they are not that, they will write ex-Supreme Court judge, so and so. So they are no more the Supreme Court judge, but they have to write ex-Supreme Court judge, ex-Chief Justice of India. So that they have to write. They have lost the title long back, but they have to mention it. So like that, this is how the ego acts. But whatever the form it may identify with, ego is the same, whether in a beggar or in a king. It is not different at all. It is the same thing. So this ego is actually illusory. And the clever fellow occupies us in other thoughts and never allows us to focus on itself. That is what this cunning ego does. And therefore, for lives after lives, we are involved in useless other inquiries, and the main focus we are not on. We should focus on ourselves. And then the world is experienced only when ego manifests and disappears when ego unmanifests. So the world is experienced in the waking and the dream state, but not in the deep sleep state, where the ego is temporarily absent, or it is in the dormant state or absorbed state. So that which is in the beginning and that which is at the end is in between also. That which was not in the beginning and is not at the end and it appears in between, that is illusion. So the clay or mud was in the beginning, then the pot appeared, and then the pot was destroyed and the clay is still there. So clay was there in the beginning, clay is there at the end also, and in between also the same clay appeared as a pot. Pot was an illusion, but the clay was the reality. It was there throughout, but it appeared temporarily as a pot. So it is like that. So this ego also appears in between. It was not there in the beginning, it will not be there in the end also. So whatever is there in between that it appears, it is only an illusion. There is no reality to that. So in the concluding, in the session last time, the true state of being was given. As long as ego exists, it makes us restless. That is how it has been designed. Two things Prakriti has done. Of course, it has made realization difficult. At the same time, we can't do without realization also. Because of ego, it has made ego extrovert and not allowing us to inquire on itself. At the same time, this ego also makes us restless. It will not give us whatever experiences we may have in this world. It cannot give us full satisfaction at all. No true joy, pleasure, or happiness can come out of any experiences of this world, which is permanent, not just passing, momentary, fleeting, nothing like that. So we are restless then, and this restlessness is also required. Then only we'll start inquiring, well, there has to be something beyond what is apparent. It can't be just like this. If we go deep into analysis of this world, the samsara and our experiences, like Lord Buddha said, sarvam kshanikam kshanikam, sarvam dukkham dukkham. So sarvam dukkham dukkham, sarvam kshanikam kshanikam. In everything there is dukkham only. The so-called apparent sukha that we see, in that also there is dukkha only. But if that apparent sukha is not a little bit, then nobody would like to live. They would as well commit suicide, or they could care less for the body. What is the use of living like that? So that little bit of sukha is there, and with the greed of that, people, this samsara goes on for millions of lives together. Otherwise, if even that is not there, nobody would like to live also. But in that sukha also there is dukkha only hidden. So if you continuously keep on analyzing like that, that is how vairagya comes. Then we say that I don't want anything, this is enough is enough. I want to get out of this birth and death cycle, this samsara and everything like that. So there is no sukha whatsoever in the external world. And this restlessness, when we are restless, we are fed up, we say that, okay, enough is enough. I want to get that source of eternal bliss. There has to be, it cannot be like that. There has to be something beyond what is apparent. So this is how we get to that. Now, having done that, this precious jewel of the self seems to have got lost in the well of samsara. How do I retrieve it? So today we begin the new shloka, and we have We have been looking forward to this one. Shlok 30. Kupe yatha gadha jale tatantha nimajya buddhya shitaya nitantam pranam cha vacham cha niyamya chinvat vinde nijahang krutimula rupam. Kupe yatha gada jale tatantah nimajya buddhya shitaya nitantam pranam cha vacham cha niyamya chinvat vinde nija ahankruti mula rupam. So now getting to the root of this ego. Yatha gada jale kupe. Yatha gada jale kupe. As one dives in a well of deep waters, yatha gada jale kupe. Tatha niyamya pranam cha vacham cha. In the same way, having controlled the breath and the speech, pranam cha vacham cha, nitantam shitaya buddhya, with an intellect extremely sharp, antarnimajya chinvat, having dived inside inquiring, nija ahankruti mula rupam vinde. One gets at the root of one's ego. So this is what it is. Now the example given here is about the diver diving to search for a jewel. Now these divers are specially trained ones. Not anyone can dive. Just because if somebody knows a little bit of swimming, this search operation in the waters, deep waters, cannot be done just because somebody knows swimming. So for them, there are divers are there who are trained in search operations like that. Then diving in different types of water is again different thing. Diving in the ocean, diving in the rivers and lakes or pond, and diving in the well is a different ball game. Because pond, lake, river and ocean, they are huge water bodies, open one. But the well has got a wall. So at least when a diver is diving into the ocean or the river or the lake or pond, he doesn't have to fear hitting the wall of the well. It's open one, he can dive. But here now he has to be careful while diving. He should not hit the wall, otherwise he'll get hurt himself. So he has to be an expert in diving in a well. Just any diver will not do. A diver may be expert in the diving in the ocean or the river, but does he have the experience of diving in the well? You see, because there the wall is there, and how narrow is the well or how wide is the well, that also has to be taken into consideration. Then he has been given a location where the jewel has been lost. Now he has to dive. He has to be careful. He has to dive deeper. It can't be a shallow dive. He has to dive deeper, and he has to be careful that it doesn't hit the wall also. And then he has to search. Maybe first time when he dives, he may not get it. And unlike in the ocean or the river or lakes, since it is wide, there can be more light inside. The well may be darker. So that is also there. So he has to wear the lights, headlight also, and then dive. So many factors are there. Only a well-trained and experienced diver and with specific experience in diving in the well, only he can get into the dive into that well to get the jewel. Now, this is to explain the meditation. Now there is this jewel called the self that has also lost in the deep waters of thoughts. See? And this has to be retrieved by an expert diver. That means an adhikari, like a qualified diver retrieves the jewel from the deep well. Similarly, a qualified seeker only can retrieve this hira which is lost, this diamond, this jewel that is lost called the self, in the sansara of thoughts, in the deep waters of these thoughts. So it has to extricate. Now, who is the adhikari? This is what it is. Because we have to train our mind and intellect. Our body also has to be trained, mind and intellect also has to be trained, because this inquiry, this search is unlike any other search. If we study a subject, it is easier because excluding the uh, subject of the pure self, everything else can be objectified and learned as an object, studied as an object, but not the self. That is a huge difference. And therefore, techniques that can be applied in studying other subjects cannot be applied here. So here we have to make our mind single pointed. So for that, first thing is that first we have to purify our mind with Nishkam Karma Yoga. Reduce our desires, because desires make us restless. To reduce the desire, we need to have Vairagya. Vairagya means to know why we have more desires, because we think that there is something in this world I can derive some joy, pleasure, or happiness from. Unless we are 101% convinced that there is absolutely no iota of any joy, pleasure, or happiness in the external world, until then these desires will keep happening one by one. It will come, then it will put into action, then the action may get result. We may be satisfied or not satisfied with the result or happy with the result. That will also pull us into more desire and more action and so on. So this goes on like that. So first thing is that Vairagya also has to be there. Therefore, there is this sadhan chatushtaya for a seeker, for a Vedantic seeker. Sadhan chatushtaya is that Viveka, Vairagya, Shat Sampatti, and Mukshutva. Of course, it is very difficult to find a seeker with all these four qualifications. We acquire it over a period of time. Some people may have a little bit of inclination towards spirituality. Then we have to nurse it. We have to grow it. Maybe just a little sprout. We have to make it into a full tree, into that. So more and more exposure to the satsangs and the scriptural study will help us grow into that kind of a tree, a strong one that cannot be destroyed. Otherwise, some people have a passing interest in spirituality like a sprout that comes during the monsoon time and then it disappears. So this has to be nurtured. The mind intellect equipment has to be sharpened. It has to be made into single pointed. So pranayam is there to make the mind single pointed. Even the practices like Jyoti Trataka is very good practice to not only make the mind single pointed, but also to sharpen the intellect. So these are the practices that we require. The one who is an adhikari, why there is an insistence on adhikari? If you look at it, there is an insistence on adhikari, a qualified person in all fields of activities, one can say. Even in the professional institutes also an adhikari is there. So anybody cannot join an engineering institute or a medical college, or they can do chartered accountancy. No. So they have to pass certain exam and then they are qualified to get admission to a medical college or engineering college or to do chartered accountancy and things like that. So it's not that easy. So then he is a qualified person. So even in many of these worldly activities also one has to be qualified for that. So what to talk of the spiritual one? So here also we are supposed to be qualified to follow that. Why it is insisted that one has to be an adhikari? Because the one who is an adhikari, it will be easy for him to grasp what the teacher says, what the master says, what the guru says. If one is not an adhikari, if that one doesn't have the sanskara, purvajanma sanskara for the adhyatma, that person may attend one or two talks and then find that, oh, this is too subtle or this is way too beyond my understanding. I don't know, whatever they must be discussing must be good, but it is beyond my comprehension. It is better to take namasmarana, that is easier one. So let me go in that. So like that it happens. So it is not an easy way without being an adhikari to understand. It is difficult to grasp without being an adhikari. So, because for millions of lives we have lived, it is easier to find faults in others, but we cannot see faults in our own self. It is easier to be extrovert because nature has designed our sense organs and mind to be extrovert. It is easier to be that, but it is difficult to turn them within. This is what it is. Though, and to realize this pure self, which is Nirgun Nirakar, and the subtlest of all, it is more difficult, most difficult. Now, having said that, so here Ramana Maharishi gives us who is an expert diver to find this jewel. He should be an adhikari. Of course, this we have discussed earlier also, but here now the emphasis is on that. Now, what are the types of thoughts one should entertain during contemplation? So the adhikari has been given in the 30th shloka, who is the expert diver to get this jewel. So one who has made his mind single-pointed, intellect is also sharpened, and a sadhan chatushchay sampanna adhikari is even better, and so on. Now, what kind of thoughts we should entertain during contemplation? In the 31st shloka, Maunena majjan manasa swamula charchaiva satyatma vicharanam syat eshohametanna mama swarupam iti pramasatya vicharanangam. Maunena majjan manasa swamula charcha eva satyatma vicharanam syat esha aham etatna mama swarupam iti pramasatya vicharana angam. Now, maunena majjan manasa, diving in silence by the mind, swamula charcha eva satya atma vicharanam syat. Inquiring about one's own root alone is true self-inquiry. Then, esha aham etat na mama swarupam. This I am, this is not my nature. Esha aham etat na mama swarupam. This I am, this is not my nature. Iti prama satya vicharana angam. Thus, these knowledge thoughts are a limb of true inquiry. So, these knowledge or thoughts, these are the true inquiry. Now, maunam, maunena, maunam. Let us see what this maunam is all about. Maunam, simple maunam is people do keep mauna vrata. On that day, they don't speak. They control the speech. Keeping this mauna vrata is also good because it saves energy. And it also energy because most of the time people also gossip unnecessarily, worldly gossip. So that saves energy and also it doesn't divert our thoughts also. So that is the grossest form of maunam, just to keep one day silence, not to talk. Is gross form. But there are different ways of maunam also. Somebody, when you are reflecting, mananam, when you are doing it, that is also a form of maunam. When you are doing the nididhyasanam, contemplation, that is also a type of maunam. And the highest type of mauna is yasmat vacho nivartante aprapya manasasah, tad mauna. So there from where the speech and mind return without attaining, that is the true state of being. That is the highest type of mauna, one can say. So then maunam, maunena majjan manasa swamula charcha eva satya atma vicharanam syat. So the charcha is done with the subtle viveka. We inquire into what we are not. And charcha is done, the discussion is done among the sadhaks, other sadhaks also of the same Same level the sadhaks are there, this charcha is done. But mananam and nididhyasana is not done in group, that is done individually. That is, the question is asked by the mind and our own intellect answers the question that is asked by the mind. That is the mananam that goes on. So when the charcha is done, of course, we should not involve ourselves into vivada, jalpa and vitanda. Vada, samvada is fine, but there should be no vivada, jalpa and vitanda. Because this truth does not depend on any opinion of one or many. It is not subject to any interpretation. Charcha satyatma. Whatever may be the opinions or interpretation, so the conclusion drawn should match with our experience. So we may discuss so many things, but do the conclusion match with the reality around us and our own experience? So it has to be tested at the 4 levels. 2 plus 2 has to be 4, no doubt. But of course, we can arrive at the figure of 4 in different ways also. 1 plus 3 is also 4. 5 minus 1 is also 4. 8 divided by 2 is also 4, and so on. That is okay. But the procedure is there. The pramana has to be there. It has to match with the experience. So any statement that is made in Shruti, the major 3 pramanas are accepted. That is, first one is that Shruti pramana. Any statement is made, any line of argument we take, or the charcha or reflection or contemplation that we take, it should have Shruti pramana. Then it should be proven with Yukti pramana. In Yukti pramana comes Drishtanta also. So Drishtanta pramana along with Yukti pramana. So by logical analysis, by intellectual analysis, by rational analysis, by scientific analysis, we have to come to that conclusion, and with example. And then finally, it has to match our direct subjective experience also. So these are the 4 pramanas on which it is tested. Whatever the discussion, inquiry that we are doing, whatever mananam nididhyasana that we are doing, so it has to be tested against these pramanas. Then only it is accepted. So the first thing is that the inquire into what we are not. We start with what is possible immediately for us. What we are is little difficult now. It is subtle and we do not know. But at least we can start the discussion on what we are not. Because whatever we have considered ourselves to be, at least we can start, take up that subject. Are we surely that? Am I the body? Am I the pranas? Am I the sense organs? Am I the mind? Am I the intellect? At least that much we can start with. Because this is what I have considered for lives together. For millions of lives, I have done that only. So we can start with the inquiry with that. And this is kind of an objective knowledge. So it is easier also. We are trained in that. So we start with that which is easier, and at least come to a firm conclusion that I cannot be any of these. Then what remains is the self. So first we have to get rid of this. So then the inquiry starts. We have done this so many times. Why I cannot be this body? So we have come up with 14 reasons why we cannot be the body. What is mine cannot be I. If any part is taken away, then it doesn't affect my existence. Trillions and trillions of organisms live in this body. They consider it their abode. Not only their abode, but also they consider this, that is the only world they have known. They are born there, live there, die there. That is it. Other than that, they have not known any other world. Then, of course, body is made up of food, but we do not have any I notion in food. But the body is 100% food. So we cannot be that, this body. And then, of course, Jada Chetan Bheda is there. Body is Jada, I am Chetan. Drashta Drishya Bheda is there. Body is the Drishya, I am the Drashta. Then Swagata Bheda is there. Internal differences are there. So many organs and all that thing. Consciousness has got no Swagata Bheda. Then that which has got different parts, it is subject to modification. I being partless, I am not subject to modification. Then we have seen another reason also about people being reborn, or people being born and remembering their previous birth, reincarnation. So they know very well, because their memory somehow has not been erased from the past birth. So they know very well their past life, and this life they have got another body. So they are sure that they can never be this body, because they had a different body which died, and now they have a different body. So this has been scientifically studied. Then this body is not available for us in all the three planes of consciousness. Only in the waking state it is available for us. So I cannot be the body. Then also we have seen that if we have to experience the changes taking place in anything, we have to be outside the field of change. So we know our body has changed. So if we know, the knower of the change has to be other than that which has undergone change. So I know my body has changed. That means I have to be an entity other than the body. If I'm part of that changing entity, then I will never know the change. So the very fact that I knew it, that means I am other than that. Then, of course, we have seen the law of conservation of matter and energy. And I'm the conscious knower of both matter and energy and their transformation. So this law of conservation is applicable to me also, that I cannot be created nor destroyed, and it is not subject to transformation also. But the body is born in time and then will be transformed in time. So I cannot be this body. And then jnata jnaya bheda. I am the knower and the body is the known object. And then lastly, the substratum of anything, the subtlest of all is the substratum of everything. So we have seen consciousness is the subtlest of all things. The Panchama Bhuta also, earth, water, fire, air, and space. The subtlest of all this is consciousness, because they are all inert. There has to be a conscious knower to the existence and transformation in this. So space is the subtlest of all, and space is the support or adhisthana, the substratum of the other four elements. Subtler than the space, because space is inert and insentient, subtler than the space is consciousness, that is the subtlest of all. And therefore, consciousness has to be the substratum of everything. And I have to be that consciousness. So this way we have to take up the inquiry continuously. Now, having said that, what happens when the ego falls? The 32nd shloka. Gaveshanat prapya rudantaram tat patedahanta paribhugna shirsham athaham spurati prakrushtam naham krutistat parameva purnam gaveshanat prapya rudantaram tat pated ahamta paribhugna shirsha अथ अहम अन्यत स्फुरति प्रकृष्टम न अहम कृतिहि तत् परम एव पूर्णम. Now गवेषणात् tat rudantaram gaveshanat prapya, having reached within the heart by the search, gaveshanat, ahamta paribhugna shirsha pate, the I notion whose head is broken falls. Atha anyat aham prakrushtam spurati, then another I, which is the supreme self, the pure one, shines forth. Tat na aham kruti param purnam eva. It is not the ego, but it is the supreme fullness alone. It is not that ego, but it is the pure self. Now, this pure self doesn't come from anywhere. It is already existing, but it is not seen. So we say it is not there, or I do not experience it. Like the classic example that came in Atmabodh also, when the cloud covers our eyes, we cannot see the sun, but in ignorance we say that the cloud has covered the sun. It is not so. In fact, we see the very clouds in the light of that sun alone. clouds cannot cover the sun. It is that it has covered our eyes, our vision it has covered, and therefore we cannot see the sun. So it is our own ignorance that is preventing us from having the realization of our own self. The Atma is Nitya, the self is always Nitya and ever shining. It is the flaw in our vision that is the cause that we do not have its darshan. So, ego identifies with the various forms and the upadhis or the conditioning, which appears, so to say, to conceal the self. Self was always there for millions of lives together. Self was always there. We have taken millions of birth. Every birth, the self was always with us only. We were never away from the self. Self was always there. And yet, if we ignored it, we didn't know about it. And because of the extrovert mind and the sense organs, we spent our time in the external indulgences, life after life, birth after birth. And with the net result that we are still restless and not happy. So this is what it is. So it conceals itself. So this ego which identifies with different forms and then conceals the self like that. Like the classic example of Ravan, who projected so many heads to conceal his real one. And then finally Rama killed the real head also, he destroyed, and that is how his Atma merged, Ravan's Atma merged into that of Rama. But it is anyway the same. So this is what it is. This ego identifies and conceals, so to say. Self cannot be concealed. As the sun cannot be concealed by the clouds, so also the self also cannot be concealed by anything. It is the flaw in our vision, our understanding, our knowledge, that we find that it remains concealed from us. Now, all of us in the world are bound by our duties. Does this bondage continue after realization? If not the bondage, do the duties continue? That in Shlok 33, Bhagavan says, Aham krutim yo lasati grasitva kim tasya karyam parishishtamasti kinchet vijanati sanatmanonya tasya stitim bhavayitum kshamak aham kritim yah lasati grasitva kim tasya karyam parishishtam asti किंचित विजानाति स न आत्मनः अन्यत् तस्य स्थितिं भावयितुं क्षमकः. Now, ya aham krutim gasitva lasati kim parishishtam karyam asti tasya. So, what is that remains to be done for him who shines having devoured the ego, has realized the self, devoured the ego? Sa vijanati na kinchit atmana anyat. He knows nothing other than the self. Ka tasya sthitim bhavayitum kshamaha. So now, who is able to conceive his state of being? Ka tasya sthiti bhavayitum. Now, being egoless. Now, here we are discussing whether there is any duty after realization. Now, realization means what? One has become egoless. There is no karta bhokta bhava left. There is no ego. So there is no doership notion in this self-realized person. Having realized the highest, actually having realized the highest, he has no duties whatsoever left in this world. If there is any duty left, then the realization is not complete. Then this realized master can live the way he wanted. He may be very active in this world, or not at all active, maybe in samadhi. It is up to him what he does. It is his body will go according to the prarabdha, the destiny of the body. He is not bothered about that. That prarabdha no more belongs to him because the ego that was identifying with the body is no more there. So once he has realized the self, the sanchit, prarabdha and agami karma all has been burnt off in the fire of knowledge. So he has no duties as such. Yet, as per his station in life, his body, mind, intellect may go about doing certain tasks like any lay person. But his actions are spontaneous. It is not out of a desired prompter activity, not out of selfish desire or with some selfish motive. So we act because if there is some praptavya, if I have to gain something, then I will act to gain that. For a realized master, there is nothing to be gained in this world. Having gained the infinite source of bliss, what else is there to gain in this world? Nothing. So if there is any praptavya, there will be a kartavya. If there is no praptavya, there is no kartavya. So if I have to be good, or I have to be a millionaire, or I have to be a sports champion, then I have to do certain activities for that. So now, having realized the highest, there is no desire, nothing to be gained in this world from this samsara. So all of us act to gain joy. Now this realized master has, having realized the self, has gained the infinite source of eternal bliss. So now we act to gain joy. Now he acts out of joy, spontaneously. As the things happen spontaneously, it is not predetermined or anything like that. As it comes, it happens like that. So his actions are expression of love and joy without any selfish motive at all. In this Brihadaranyaka Upanishad also, and in Panchadashi, chapter 7, Tripti Dipakarana also, this has come. Atmanam ched vijanya ayam asmiti purusha kimichan kasya kamaya shariran anusanvaret. So, on knowing the self, desiring are what and for whom, God he will trouble his body. He will not trouble his body anymore. So now he acts out spontaneously out of love and joy. That's all. Therefore, many saints and sages were misunderstood in their own times by the lay people. Only a great master can know another great master. Only a saint can know another saint. If one has duties to perform, then that one is not the knower of truth. There are no duties to perform for a realized master. So that is the status of duties as regards the realized master is concerned. Now, why does the mind not abide in the truth, even though told so by many? And mind abides in that which was not told to it by anyone. We were not told by anyone that you are this body, you are the mind, you are the intellect, you are the pranas. Nobody told us, but we have accepted it. Now, great saints, sages, masters, scriptures, everybody tells us that you are not this body, and yet the mind doesn't abide in that. That is in the 34th shloka. Aha sputam tattvamasiti vedaham tathapya samprapya paratmanishtham bhuyo vicharo mati durbalatvam tatsarvada swatmataya hi bhati. Aha sputam tattvamasi iti vedah tatha api asamprapya paratmanishtham भूयः विचारः मति दुर्बलत्वम तत् सर्वदा स्वात्मतया ही भाति. वेद तत्वमसि इति स्फुटम आह. The Veda has said clearly that thou art. So the Veda has said clearly thus that thou art, tatvamasi. Tata api paratma Nishtam asamprapya. So, even then, having not obtained abidance in the Supreme Self, what could be the reason? Bhuya vichara mati durbalatva. So, what is the reason? It is to inquire again is the debility of the mind. We have to inquire again, that is the weakness of the mind. Tat sarvada hi swatmataya bhati. So, that reality shines always indeed always shines, you see, as one's own self. So, tat sarvada hi swatmataya bhati. Now the Vedas has said very clearly, the sages, saints, sages, masters, everybody has said very clearly, Tattvamasi, you are that. But we do not have the firm abidance in that. And nobody told us that we are the ego and body, mind, intellect equipment, but we have a firm abidance in that. No, I am this body and I am the mind. People can insult me, people can praise me, and all that thing, and I get affected by that. So we have no doubt whatsoever about that. Even if we are intellectually convinced that we are not any of these, yet there is no firm abidance in that. That is because of durbalatvam, that mati durbalatvam, bhuyo vicharaha, mati durbalatvam. Why is the mind weak? Mind weak because it is ashuddha. It is not ekagra, it is anekagraha. So nishkam karma yoga has to be done to purify the mind. Plus the practices to make the mind single pointed is also very important because it is scattered in many directions. I should do this, or I should do that, or I should do this, or I should go here, or I should go there, I should go to this guru or that guru, this text or that text. One sadhak is here, every time he comes up with a new text. I always say him that first you take a text and complete that, and then you could pick up the next text. So he randomly brings some text and then starts discussing. I said, this is not the way for proper studies. So his mind is scattered. We have seen that sunlight is not powerful enough to burn anything on this planet. But if the sun rays pass through a magnifying glass, it can burn a ball of cotton. Now what we have done is that we have concentrated the sunlight rays to that magnifying glass on the ball of cotton. Now it has gained that power to burn the cotton. Otherwise it was scattered all over, it had no power to burn it. Similarly, that mind which is scattered all over, it is not at all effective, especially in the reflection and contemplation, mananam and nididhyasanam of this subtler subject. So the subtle subject is very difficult. So this has to be made ekagra, single pointed. Shuddha, by Nishkam Karma Yoga, we have to purify and then make it single pointed also. Then only this mind will help us. Mind can be a friend also or foe also. Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoho. So a pure and a single pointed mind is our friend and the cause of our moksha. And that ashuddha and anekraga man, that will be our enemy and the cause of our bondage, which is moving here and there. So this practice we have to do. Practice of pranayam, japa sadhana, puja also, jyoti tratak also. They are all very good practices to make the mind single pointed. So various techniques are given for that. And of course, to purify the mind, Nishkam Karma Yoga is the best thing to purify the mind. Then to reduce the vasanas also, because of which the desires come. Japa sadhana is good to reduce vasana. In Karma Yoga, Nishkama Karma Yoga also reduces the vasana, it purifies the mind. Then we have this in Hatha Yoga, Manduki Mudra is also good to reduce the vasanas. Then we have in Jnana Yoga, Pratipaksha Bhavana is good to reduce the vasanas. and the desires subsequent to the desires. When the vasana is not there, the desire for that will not be there. And then, of course, in the Kriya Yoga, we have Chidakas Dharana to produce the vasana. So this way we have got various techniques to make the mind single pointed and purify the mind also. So one should not fall into despair. You see, a child, when it first time starts, makes an attempt to sit. It is lying down first, then it turns on its stomach. Then it starts crawling all over the place. Now, having done that, he succeeded in turning, and then having done that, he tries to sit. While he tries to sit, so many times he'll fall. But does he give up? No. We as a child also, we didn't give up. Then once we learned to sit, then we want to learn to stand. So many times we have fallen and got ourselves hurt and we cried also. But did we give up standing up? No. Then we learned to stand, and then we started walking, holding on the sides and walking. And so many times we fell, we hurt also, we cried also. No, we didn't give up. And then we started running, but we didn't give up. Similarly, we should never despair. There should be no despair at all. You see, after all, it is our own self. Why not? It may take a little bit later, earlier the better. That is what the sankalpa should be there. But here or that, eventually it has to fall into place. There is no way out for it because we are even now the same. So don't get into this despair. See, we have got examples. Parikshit, once only he heard the Bhagavad from Sukhdev. In 7 days, he got moksha. He realized the self. Shvetaketu had to be told 9 times. And then only he realized the self. And Indra had to live with his guru for 108 years. And Virochana, he left. When he was told that the body is Atma, he left. But Indra reflected on that and he said that body cannot be Atma. And then he served his guru for 108 years. So it depends. But all 3 of them, whether it was Parikshit or Shvetaketu or Indra, all 3 of them realized the self. Shvetaketu in 7 days. Parikshit in 7 days, Shvetaketu 9 times he was told, not once or twice, 9 times. Then only realized it. And then Indra spent 108 years in his Guru's Seva. Then only realized it. So this way, so we also have got hope. We are not as bad. There is a story of this Narad Muni also. Once Narad Muni was traveling through a forest. So there were 2 seekers meditating, sitting under a tree. So when they saw Narad Muni, they wanted to inquire how long it will take for them to realize. Seekers are always eager, you see, to know that. So Narad Muni looked at one sadhaka. He said that you may take another 100 lives to realize. So when he was told that you will take 100 lives to realize, he went into depression. Oh, 100 lives. The second one was there. To him, Narad Muni told him that you may take as many lives as there are leaves on this tree. As soon as that the second sadhak heard this, he started dancing. So Narad Muni told him, hey, look here. For him, it is only 100 lives. For you is as many as the leaves are. So he said that, Narad Muniji, Devrishi Narada, you told me that I will realize in the number of lives according to the number of leaves that are there on this tree. At least I know for sure now that my name is listed in the realizers one. One day I'm going to realize it. And in that ecstasy, in that excitement, he realized then and there. Whereas the fellow would have realized in 100 lives, he went into depression. So there is no hard and fast rules. Don't think about 100 lives or 108 years and this and that and all that thing. No, it can be here and now. So You should not worry about that. There is hope for us also. Some feel that they do not know the self. Others say they know it vaguely, yet others are confident of knowing it. Sri Ramana Maharshi smiles at such thought. Shlok 35. Navedmyaham mam utavedmyaham mam iti pravado manujasya hasyam drigdrishya bhedat kimayam vidhatma स्वात्मैकतायां हि धियां न भेदा न वेद्मि अहम माम उत वेद्मि अहम माम इति प्रवादः मनुजस्य हास्य दृग्दृश्य भेदात् किम अयम द्विधा आत्मा स्व आत्म एकतायां हि धियां न भेदा. Manujasya hasya. Now here, aham mam na vedmi. Uta aham atma vedmi. I do not know myself. Uta aham mam vedmi. Or I know myself. Iti pravadaha. Such expressions. Manujasya hasya. Such expressions of man are all laughable. Manujasya hasya. Ayam atma drigdrishya bheda vidha kim. So, is this self twofold by the division of the seer and the seen? Swa atma ekatayam dhyam hi na bhedaha. So, in the knowledge of the oneness of oneself, indeed, there are no divisions. Now, there is no jnata jneya bheda. No one known difference at all. There is no jnata jneya bheda in the pure self. Therefore, one can't say that I know myself or I do not know myself. So I and the self, they are not two jnata jneya bheda like that. So I am is known to all. I exist, I am. That is known to all. And there is no dvaita in that. There is no duality is that. I am and I know I am. So like that, these are the facts. So, and it is self-evident. I exist is self-evident. I don't need anybody's certificate that I exist. So, I can't be confused about I am. So, there cannot be any doubt about who I am. I am. In this I am, there is no jnata jneya bheda. This is the pure self, I am. There is no knower known difference. So, I and the knower I, there is no difference between that. That is only one and the same. I, the pure self, and one who is in awareness of his own self, the pure self. There are no two different things. There is no bheda. In this realization of the pure self, there is no jnata jneya bheda. Now, knowledge. Knowledge is of two types. One is the subjective knowledge, the other is the objective knowledge. Apart from the knowledge of the self, all the knowledge regarding any other subject, that is an objective knowledge. Because in objective knowledge, thought is involved. In the pure self, in knowing myself, there is no thought involved. My existence is not a thought. I am, I exist, my existence, just an awareness of existence is not a thought. I don't have to remind myself that I exist, that I exist, I exist. I don't have to do japa for that. It is not a thought. My existence is spontaneous and known, and awareness is full awareness is there. So there is no jnata jneya bheda. And therefore, this is a thought-free knowledge compared to the objective knowledge that we gather about the subjects around the world, the topics around the world. They are all thought-based. Subtlest of the subject may be in the external world, they are all thought-based. But this is thought-free knowledge of the self. Thought-free knowledge means better word to use is that pure objectless awareness. Blissful awareness, one can say. We can add to that. Pure blissful objectless awareness. That is it. So there is no dvaita there. Of no known dvaita is not there. So ignorance is ignorance. There is no degree of ignorance. If I don't know something, I don't know something. There is no degree of ignorance. But as regards knowledge is concerned, there may be something. I know something very well. Then something I have a partial knowledge. Some things I know vaguely. Something I have got a confusion about, or something I have some misunderstanding about. So in knowledge, there can be various degrees. In ignorance, there is no degree. If I don't know something, I don't know something. Simple as that. So darkness has got no degree. Darkness is darkness only. Light has got degrees and all that thing, because darkness is not a thing. Light is a thing. And light, you can increase it, reduce it, and make it more intense and all that thing. But darkness is not a thing. It is only absence of light. Ignorance is absence of knowledge. That's all. There is no degree to that. But in knowledge, there is a degree. I understand very well. I can speak this language very fluently. That language, I have got a working knowledge. This language, I have got a rough idea. That language, I don't know at all. So something like that, it is there. So here, there can be understanding, misunderstanding, less understanding, confusion, a full understanding, and so on. So the scriptures removes all the doubts, all the misunderstanding, all the confusion that we have gathered in our mind and intellect equipment. So, and the other important thing is that scriptures do not create the self. Self is already there. It only removes the ignorance, the confusion, and all the misunderstanding that we have. And the scriptural statements are very subtle also. So unless we are an adhikari, we may find it difficult, or there can be a misunderstanding also. So Vedanta is not everybody's cup of tea. Now, for example, in one small sentence, in college, the students were asked to punctuate a sentence in English. Woman without her man is nothing. So the boys punctuated. Simple sentence is woman without her man is nothing. So the boys punctuated woman without her man, comma, is nothing. And the girls also punctuated woman, exclamation mark, without her comma, man is nothing. So now the sentence is same, the words are same, everything is same, but now they are giving diametrically opposite meaning. So if it can happen in mundane statements like this, what to talk about subtle statements of the scriptures? So therefore, if somebody is not an adhikari, or somebody doesn't have sanskar or inclination towards that, it is very difficult to comprehend it. They may attend a few talks and then they may disappear out of that. Oh, this is too much. I would rather do some Nam Japa. That is easier to do. So like that it is. So we'll conclude today's session today till here, Shlok 35. Now, if anybody has got any questions, I have overrun the time. If anybody has got any questions on the topic that we covered.
Swamiji, you mentioned that Raman had 10 heads in order to hide his real head. What does that mean?
You see, that is, now you see, Ravan's 10 head is only an indicative thing. There was no such man who was moving around with 10 heads. Can you imagine if somebody has got 10 heads, how will he be able to sleep? He cannot turn this way or that way. If he has to get into a subway, it will be a very big problem for him. So actually, Ravan was Dashagranthi Brahman. He was a Pandit, he was a Rishiputra, Dashagranthi Brahman. Very intelligent he was. So to ordinary folks, to show how intelligent Ravan was, they drew a picture and put 10 heads. You see, and showed that he has got intelligence of 10 people. So like that it is. So now, so intelligent, so therefore he was hiding his real form. He was hiding because of his intelligence. He was hiding in various forms. But then Rama is also a Bhagwan avatar. and therefore after destroying all the heads, the real head also is destroyed. So ego is also like that. Ego hides behind different forms. We have already seen it keeps on taking up and down so many different forms throughout the day. Sometimes I am fat, so sometimes I am slim, sometimes I am fit, sometimes unfit, and I'm sometimes handsome and beautiful, sometimes I'm ugly, and all that thing. So this ego keeps on taking forms, keeps on taking titles, name, fame, glory, and everything like that. That is how it hides. So this is also, and a way it was explained that Ravan also was hiding behind his different heads, means basically different forms. But then, who is in front of him? Sakshat Bhagwan himself is in front of him. So how long can he hide it? So he merged with Bhagwan when that ego was destroyed. And that thing that was hiding, that was destroyed, and his real head that was there, that was destroyed, he merged with Bhagwan ultimately. So that is what it is. This ego plays tricks with us. So we have
Thank you, Thank you, Swamiji. One more question. You said there are 4 types of Maunam.
4 types of Maunam. Now, Maunam is, one is that we take Maun Vrata, which is at the superficial level, we don't talk. Because that, of course, initially it is good for a seeker because that saves energy and useless gossip also. Then the second type of Maunam is when we are reflecting on spiritual aspect. So that is called as Mananam when we are doing it. Then also that is also a type of Maunam only. When we are contemplating, that is also a type of Maunam only. Then when we meditate also, that is also a Maunam only. So these are different types of Maunam, you see. So where we are not involved into useless gossip, or we are not spending on energy unnecessarily on the worldly matters. So either at a physical level or at a subtler level.
Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you, Swamiji.
Anybody else? Swamiji, last week was really a, I won't say terrible, but continuous dialogue going on in the mind.
Maunam was going on.
No, it was a dialogue.
Yeah, but in the mind.
Yeah, I am putting the question, and you were sitting there to give me the answer.
Okay.
So I must have posed number of questions, and to the each question you answer, you find out. Every question, if I ask you, you better find out. Okay. So so then that led me to think further about it. So one of the questions I would like to put before you, and the answer that I got is this. Normally it is believed, that is my experience and everyone's experience, that in the waking state, Jagrat, Sapna and Sushupti Avastha, particularly Jagrat Avastha and Sapna Avastha, it is the we have experienced through Sharir, Man, Buddhi, Chit and Ahankar. In the
Jagrat Avastha, it is only all the things are available.
All the things are available.
Body is not there.
Yeah, I'm coming to that. So in the Sapna Avastha, body is absent, rest of the things are present. But when I go to the Sushupti Avastha, even the subtle body, total subtle body along with the ego is absent, or you may call it dormant. Still, in spite of that, this instrument of experience, they are totally absent or not present. When I wake up, I say I slept well. That means somebody was recording recording the experiences which was going on in my deep sleep. Maybe that experience was of objectless experience of or void, or whatever we call it, blankness or whatever it is. So I drew the conclusion that in the Jagrat Avastha, Sapna Avastha and Shushupti Avastha, it is by mistaken belief that in Jagat Avastha, it is the mind that experiences the body, and mind experiences the experience of the objects. But the conclusion is that it is the Turiyam or pure consciousness which records all the experiences that are taking, particularly in Jagrat Avastha and Sapna Avastha. Because in the deep sleep, although the instrument experiences are totally absent, still experience is taking place. So is this conclusion okay, or there is a defect in this conclusion?
The thing is that consciousness illumines the experiences. As regards the recording of the experiences are concerned, it is in the
Memory.
In the memory and all that thing. The instruments are there, mind and all that thing. Consciousness doesn't take part in any of the experience. It is there only to illuminate. As long as it is there, it will illumine. If it is not there, it will illumine the absence also. That's all. It is alipta. So like that, it is the illuminator only. So in the waking state as well as in the dream state, the instruments are active and their activities are illumined by consciousness. In the deep sleep state, the instruments are also absent, but our consciousness, our existence continues. And it is again from the memory that we have that, because consciousness is there throughout the deep sleep state also. And therefore, though we didn't know, because we have not realized the self. Once we realize the self, we will not even sleep, because Atma doesn't require to sleep. The body needs to sleep.
But memory is also, Swamiji, dormant, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that is also absolutely is not there. Then where is it recorded?
No, the consciousness is only there, and Atma doesn't sleep. So we as Atma, we don't sleep as Atma. So who is sleeping there? The body is sleeping. That is what even Nisargadatta Maharaj said, that I don't sleep, I see my body sleeping. So who is sleeping? So the sleeper is the body is seen to be sleeping. Ego is dormant there, body is seen to be sleeping. And this consciousness, now Nisargadatta Maharaj says that I see my body sleeping. So this is the consciousness, the pure self. The pure self, Atma doesn't need to sleep. It doesn't need to eat or drink or rest or sleep or anything like that. Atma is always there in a blissful state. That's it. It's a pure consciousness. So it doesn't need that. And we are that. But because of our ignorance, we think ourselves to be, now we are asleep, we are awake, or we are dreaming and all that thing. Because of ignorance, we are doing it. Otherwise, all the experiences, everything, all that, even that state called a Sushupti Avastha, where we didn't know anything, that was also illumined by consciousness only, where we didn't know anything. But there was a subtle realization, awareness when we wake up, that I didn't know anything, but I enjoyed it because we were closest to our own real self. In the absence of the ego, we were closest to ourselves. The one who has realized, he says that I don't sleep at all. I see my body sleeping. The one who has not realized, he says that I enjoyed it, because it is temporary. The ego is only there. That's all. The ego is absent, and temporarily he says that I enjoyed it. That joy cannot be compared with any of the joys or pleasures that is in the waking plane of consciousness or dream state. So that is the difference. So the main difference is here now, the consciousness that is present in the deep sleep state also. So now we compare with a realizer's body which is sleeping and an ignorant person's body which is sleeping. You see the two one. Now the realizer, the one who has realized the self as a pure self, he is no more the ego, and therefore he says that I see my body sleeping. So that is illumining he is the pure self, the pure consciousness, so illumining the experiences of that. But otherwise there is no sleep for that self. And then, as in ignorance, of course, we say that I slept, I woke up, I dreamt, I had waking experience, and then I had a disturbed sleep, I enjoyed it, I didn't enjoy it, and all those things. This is only we say in our own ignorance because we do not know. But it is only the pure self alone and nothing else there.
But Swamiji, I beg to say, I am not satisfied. My question is this: who recorded the absence of experience? Only because the entity which was present there was only consciousness. Nothing.
Consciousness is only there.
You call it Atma, Turiam, whatever you call it, but only consciousness was there.
Right.
Who recorded the experience that I slept well? Or experience of nothingness or blank experience? Who recorded? Except X, because only the consciousness was present.
Consciousness only illumined the experience. That's
Illumine, agreed.
There is no recording of experience as such. Only illumination of that experience.
Then how can I say on waking up that I slept well?
That is because your experience was illumined by consciousness. So obviously you have to know it. If the consciousness has not illumined your experience, how will you know? Isn't it? There is no, because the subtle body is not there to record it.
Yes.
Unlike in the dream state, the subtle body is at least there, but it is not there, it is absent there, dormant. Even ego is also dormant at that time. So that is not there. But illumination of the experience is there because of the pure self. And if the illumination of experience is there, then and that time, what are you experiencing? You are experiencing the bliss of the self alone. You are not experiencing any object there. See, the bliss that you experience, that I enjoyed it. What you say, I enjoyed it. Did you enjoy any object of this world? No.
No.
You didn't enjoy any object of this world.
No.
So it is only the self that you are enjoying. The pure self only that is present there at that time. It is illuminating your experiences. And that joy is the joy of the self, not of any other object. You understand that?
But Swamiji, that will bring us to the Bhagaiji's original question, that is self or pure consciousness active or passive? We took this to be neither active nor passive.
It is neither active nor passive. It only illuminates everything. You see, one has to understand this very clearly, that our notion of happiness is always enjoying some object, whether it is waking plane or dream state. But now in the deep sleep state, when I wake up, I say I enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy any objects of this world, neither in the waking plane nor in the dream state. So that enjoyment and that experience was illumined by the self, and that enjoyment comes from the self alone. Okay. That enjoyment that I had, that comes from the self alone, that was illumined by self, and it comes from the self alone, not from any of the objects of this world, any of the experience at the sensory level. You see, therefore it is also said that in the deep sleep state, we are closest to our real self. But there is a barrier of ignorance because I didn't know. I say I didn't know anything because of ignorance. But we are closest to our real self, and therefore we get a little bit of glimpse of that bliss, which is without indulging in any object. Now the thing is that when we talk of a glimpse, Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi had the experience of truth at the age of 17 itself. But he went to Arunachala to have firm abidance in that knowledge. For years together, he was in Maunam, and he was in meditation. He didn't speak to anyone. Only later on he started talking to people. But otherwise, just to have a firm abidance in that. Though he had realized it at the age of 17, then he went away to Arunachala and then remained there for several years in Virupaksha cave and Skandashram meditating to have a firm abidance in that. So that is why even though we get this experience in a deep sleep state, it is in the ignorance level. And yet there is nothing else is there. Only the self alone is there. And the experience of the sukha or ananda also comes from that, because we are not experiencing any objects there. So that alone, our self alone. Here is a very good example that I am the pure self. The deep sleep state is a very good example that I am the pure self, because without experiencing any objects of this world, I felt happy. that my happiness is there and there is no need for anything else. That is my direct subjective experience. Now, I exist. I have no doubt about my existence in the deep sleep state.
Yes.
I have no doubt that I don't know whether I existed in the deep sleep state or not. That nobody says that. I have no doubt about my existence in the deep sleep state. Was I there to record my existence in the deep sleep state? No. Neither the gross body was there for available for experience, nor the subtle body was there. But I have absolutely no doubt about my existence in the deep sleep state. So my presence was there, and I have no doubt about that. Similarly, yes.
My conclusion is not that some entity was present in the deep sleep. My conclusion is that even in the Jagrat Avastha and Sapna Avastha, it is the consciousness, so to say, records, keeps the record. Because if deep sleep, in spite of the absence of the instrument, I knew on waking up that I slept well. So similarly, my conclusion is that in spite of although the instruments are present in waking as well as the Sapna Avastha, it is the illuminator or the pure consciousness, not records, but illumines it, and that is stored in the memory. Only what is not, it doesn't go in my mind is sleep. I was deep sleep. How come? Only pure consciousness is there. I notion is not there. Then how on waking up, I can say that, or rather I could say that I slept well.
Because you are the pure self. Because you are the, no, listen to this. Because you are the pure self, in the deep sleep state, only the pure self was there. Your ego was absent. Your mind body was not there for your experience. You are the pure self, and only your pure self was present. That illumined that experience, as well as, and therefore the pure self, which is of the nature of pure bliss, infinite bliss, and therefore it was a happy experience. You didn't wake up and say that I was miserable in the deep sleep state.
Yeah.
So because you are the pure self, so here we get a glimpse that I am not far away from that absolute truth. I am that alone. See, you contemplate more on this.
Yeah.
This particular thing, you contemplate deeper and deeper on that. You are not far away from that. You are that alone. You are not far away from that, and cut out everything else. You see?
So there is no, I should not despair.
The real joy is that when you go to such a deep level of understanding, what comes to these things is that at that time in the deep sleep state, what was there? Only pure self was there. It was illuminating, and pure self is of the nature of absolute infinite bliss. I was having that blissful experience alone, and I cannot have that blissful experience. I was that blissful self alone. It is not an experience. Yes. I was that blissful self alone. See, the more closer you get to your own self, so there cannot be a despair now.
Yeah, even I have to transcend these thoughts which are going on.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you very much, Swami. Thank you.
Hariom. Should we conclude now?
Yeah, yes,
Anybody has got any question?
Swamiji, can I interrupt?
Yes.
When we say that I had disturbed sleep, then who records that? Disturbed sleep, like ego is there?
No, in the disturbed sleep, that means you are going in and coming out of the deep sleep state. Sometimes sometime you are in the deep sleep state, sometimes you are not in a deep sleep state. So that is called as disturbed sleep, or you keep waking up, or something is disturbing you, or you are getting some dream, or sometimes from dream you go into the deep sleep state, again come back to the dream, or you wake up. So that is called as a disturbed sleep. Somebody sleeps continuously for 4 or 5 hours without disturbance in the deep sleep state, and somebody has a disturbed sleep. Sometimes he's in the dream state, sometimes in the deep sleep state, and sometimes he keeps waking up also actually. So that is called a disturbed sleep. So disturbed sleep is at the level of the ego only, you can know that. So either you go
but then who records that?
The memory.
Disturbed sleep and that, like, when you ego, or what
Yeah,
about our dreams, where those are recorded?
So the dreams are recorded in the memory only. The waking plane experience is recorded in our memory. Similarly, the
Yeah.
dream state is a projection of the recordings of the waking state. Okay. And if you keep getting disturbed sleep, that is one of the two things happen. Either if you go into deep sleep and come back into the dream, or you go into the deep sleep and wake up, keep waking up in between. So when you're waking up, then you know that your sleep has been disturbed.
Yeah.
Isn't it? So the ego is active in both ways. Either you are in the dream or in the waking state, the ego is active when you're coming back from the deep sleep state. So it is recorded that you didn't have a proper sleep. You wake up and say that I didn't have a continuous deep sleep. I keep waking up. I kept waking up, or I kept getting in and out of the dreams. Sometimes I used to be in deep sleep and sometimes into a dream state, or I kept waking up in between. So my sleep was not good. It was a disturbed sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Swamiji.
Swamiji,
Yes.
according to what Pankaj Bhai was saying, that in deep sleep, who was recording, if that was the case, then cameras would never require films. The projector itself, the bulb itself would be projecting the film.
So the thing is that I alone was there in the deep sleep state. There was nobody recording it. I alone was there, devoid of all other encumbrances of the waking and the dream state.
True.
We can conclude, Swamiji.
Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah Harihi Om.